So this is going to be something we're going to talk through by thinking about one of the major problems with this proposal that Chalmers considers. So one of the problems with uploading that we might see is this problem of consciousness. So we talked in the last lecture a bit about how consciousness has become this big battleground in philosophy of mind, where nobody really has an account of consciousness that's super compelling, at least, um, and it's going to be this big battleground between dualists and physicalists and other views trying to explain exactly what consciousness is, what's the basis of consciousness. So one of the problems we might consider here, if we are trying to think of uploading as a form of digital life after death, is if my upload isn't conscious. So if I do exactly what Chalmers says, I follow the steps to the letter, then I'm gonna hopefully get some kind of existence after death. But a big concern is if I get an upload and it's not conscious, either that means it's not me and I don't exist because fundamentally I am my consciousness. So my upload has failed to preserve me and the stuff that makes me me. Um, in which case, no life after death. How sad. Um, on the other hand, I might still exist as what's called a philosophical zombie. So a philosophical zombie is a kind of thought experiment creature that Chalmers uses in a lot of his work. So a philosophical zombie is this idea of something that's kind of physically or functionally a duplicate of you, but which has no inner mental life. So there's nothing it's like to be a philosophical zombie. It's this kind of blank existence that doesn't have any consciousness, even though it gives the outward appearance of consciousness. And this is something that's kind of concerning because it's difficult to know just by kind of thinking about a physical system and how it's kind of structured about whether it's going to be conscious. So even if we succeed in doing what Chalmers tells us to do, which is kind of mapping all these functions of the brain and kind of putting them into a computer, why should we think that this is going to give rise to something that's conscious? And this seems like it's going to be concerning, just from what we said before, about if we don't know that it's going to be conscious, then I don't really know that it's going to preserve my life, at least in the way that I kind of want it to. So the big question over here then is going to be this distinction between kind of what gets called biological versus functional theories of consciousness. So a biological theory of consciousness is one that says that consciousness is inherently biological. So you can't have consciousness without having some kind of biological life. So this is a view that sees some support in philosophy, at least because it doesn't seem like at the moment that we've got any real great evidence that of consciousness that is non-biological. But on the other hand, some people want to say that the human mind is effectively functional. So we should understand what the mind is and what consciousness is in terms of what it does. So the idea might be that, look, if you want to kind of reproduce a mind, all you have to do is get the correct kind of inputs and outputs working in the same way. And that's just what a mind is. And so if we think that, the mind is effectively functional, then by reproducing the functions of the mind in a kind of digital way, we'll be reproducing the consciousness as well. This is going to be optimistic about the possibility of consciousness. And the functional theory of the mind is going to be effectively saying that the brain is essentially a very advanced computer. And so this is a kind of metaphor that gets used as to where, the brain works computationally and the mind works computationally in a kind of very advanced way. But in principle, there's no reason why a sufficiently advanced computer couldn't do what the brain does. So again, so this is, one potential problem here is this problem of consciousness.